And we are on. We say all praises be to the Creator, all power to His people. In the name of Yahshua, the Black Revolutionary Messiah, I greet you, my brothers and sisters, in the spirit of truth and the words of peace. Shalom Aleichem. Giving a special salute to the Black Messiahs. Our motto is stop waiting for a Savior and be one. Stop waiting for a Savior and be one. Have not been live like this in months because I've been on the street passing out books, teaching in the hood. But I got to come live tonight to let the people know what's going on, to warn you what's going on, because I know they got you all watching basketball. But the real March Madness is happening in Raleigh. So, going to bring Sister Miranda out of Winston-Salem, hate out of Winston, to help me tonight. Good evening, sister.
Greetings, everyone. So glad to be here. Greetings to the Black Messiah movement. Greetings to you, Minister Paul.
Sister, they got us going. I'm just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
They got us so tied up.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many bills right now that directly impact Black people.
Absolutely.
That we don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start. We were focused on the bill 187.
Right.
House Bill 187.
Mm-hmm.
The anti-critical race theory bill, the anti-racial justice bill.
Right.
Let's start with that one. Today it went before the K-12 House Committee.
Mm-hmm.
The representative from Wake County, I think her name is Representative Gill, if I'm not mistaken. She raised some real important questions, real good questions.
Mm-hmm.
And our Durham representative, because last night, full disclosure, my Durham people stood up and we emailed and tweeted Representative Marsha Maury.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give her credit. She stood up today. She raised the key questions about, she even raised the question about the contradiction about, just in 2021, you all passed Holocaust legislation, and now y'all are passing anti-racial justice, trying to pass anti-racial justice legislation. She even raised something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
She talked about Jim Crow, slavery. She hit all the points we wanted her to hit. They dismissed it because they could.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from my understanding, usually they allow public comment at these meetings. Is that correct, sister?
I'm not sure, but I read there were no comments allowed somewhere.
According to WRAL, they did not allow public comments.
Yeah.
Now, so the bill passed, and this is another slick thing they did.
Mm-hmm.
They don't count who voted yay or nay. They did another, like they did us in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
They did another, like by a round of applause type vote. So you don't even know who voted which way. It's like they did an eyes have it vote.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't put heat on the people,
right,
based on how they voted, because it was like who clapped. It was like showtime at the Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
Now it goes to the calendar committee.
Mm-hmm.
Calendar committee met this evening, and they meet in the morning. The prediction is that is going to go straight from the calendar committee straight to the House floor. No prep time, no time to organize, no time for mass emails. Today, they were predicting that it was going to go through uh, hit the calendar committee and be voted on by the full House tomorrow. I don't think that as of, what time did I check? As of 7 o'clock, it didn't happen.
Okay.
But they meet tomorrow morning, I think at 11 o'clock. So I got to go back. We have to go back and check the calendar committee to see if House Bill 187 actually goes before the House.
Okay.
Because that means we got to hit everybody. We got to hit every House representative.
Absolutely.
In North Carolina. Okay. While that was going on, right after that, we're looking at House Bill 187. Same cast of characters. The GOP, you know, I'm a black nationalist, neither Republican nor Democrat, but I'm just saying what for clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
The GOP passed something called House Bill 188. Now, we had just got over 187. Right after 187, they went to 188. 188 makes it more easier for them to kick your child out of school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Follow me now. 187 said you can't teach Black history because the thing we did in 2021, I remember you were in on this conversation as well. I think you might have been the one that raised the question. What happens when Rashawn, under the anti-critical race theory bill, comes to class and he disagrees with not being able to express himself? When he wants to talk about Jim Crow and slavery, what happens? So now they came up with House Bill 188 that says for minor infractions, they did forbid, prevent suspensions because of minor infractions. Apparently, that was included in some law, some bill, that if you have minor infractions, you can't be suspended. They took out those words. Now, for minor infractions, you can be suspended. So if little Rashad is upset that he can't say Christopher Columbus discovered America, his recourse and being able to say that under House Bill 188 is also being passed the House today, that they can't do that.
But we also remember with these suspensions, you got to be careful because we have to. The school systems can be insidious. What kind of suspensions are they talking about? It's not just out of school; that's also in schools, and there's a number. There's so many loopholes to this thing that I don't know that we even paying attention to that. So we need to look up this House Bill 188.
188 that came out of nowhere. Okay, so now we have little Rashid. You know, he can't make people feel bad by saying Christopher Columbus ain't discover America, Lincoln didn't free the slaves.
He can't make white children feel bad.
Children
exactly. Cannot learn to feel it. Yeah, they can't feel bad, right?
Yeah, so it might make them feel bad. Now, if he gets upset and says a cuss word, under House Bill 188, suspension. Now, your mother or father, you upset. You ain't being heard because you notice how they kind of shadow banned the opposition to House Bill 187 to the last minute. Didn't even tell you about 188. Right. Shadow ban 187. Now you're a parent. Your son just got kicked out of school for saying Christopher Columbus ain't discovered America. You get upset. You want to protest. You get angry because you're not being heard. What did Dr. Martin Luther King say? Rioting is the voice of the
unheard, I think.
Exactly. So now they got the anti-rioting thing, where they are strengthening anti-rioting laws. So all three of those coincide. Now, this led to this, led to this, and led to this. Now you in jail.
Absolutely. That's
You
the
see
plan.
how that went?
Mm-hmm.
Then there was I don't know about the gerrymandering thing. That's out of my scope. Some of your people might know, some of my people might know, but they also did something with gerrymandering today.
Mm-hmm.
The governor also did something with gun laws today. So nothing had a chance to be fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that happened today directly affected the Black community. And they did it all at the same time within 2 hours.
And we aren't paying attention.
You couldn't pay attention today. It was everything happened at one time. I think that was strategic.
Of course.
Okay, y'all are looking at House Bill 187.
Yeah, absolutely.
Y'all ain't even looking at 188.
I didn't even know anything about it till you just said it.
Shout out to Representative Maury again, Durham. Durham stand up. She spoke out against both of them. And I tried to look up to play back the meeting today. Okay. Because you know they broadcast it live. Mm-hmm. It might be somewhere up there, but I can't find it. I cannot find the playback of the meeting today. I went to the dashboard of the education committee, and it just says meeting ended or something like that. Can't find it because there were some interesting things that went on in that meeting. Some interesting statements that went on in that meeting that if we could play it back, chop it up, and dissect it, we might get some clarity.
But I want to see that because here in Winston, we have been pushing people to email. We've been emailing Representative Kanika Brown, Representative Amber Baker, even the Senator Paul Lowe. We've been hitting people up left and right, and none of them have been responsive, right? So as it relates to the House, I'm real curious as to what was said, if anything, in opposition to 187, because they haven't responded. I'm sorry.
Well, now it's only the Education Committee.
Okay, but have they said anything at all?
What, the Education Committee?
No, I mean any of our representatives here. Like we haven't heard anything from them. Not just the Education Committee, but have they said anything at all?
Well, Representative Gill from Wake County, she stood up.
Okay.
And our representative, Marsha Maury, she stood up. Okay. But other than that, there was a Black man from Nash County, and he supported 187.
Republican? Mm-hmm.
And the rationale, from what I gathered, because it was happening so fast, it was something about how he experienced racism from Black people, and what 187 says only white people can be racist. I gotta find that and run it back, because I think that was the logic.
Mm.
So since they had a Black man saying it, we can't be racist because our position was just made by one of y'all.
So that's interesting. I'm not surprised. I mean, that's a common tactic. We see what's her name, Candace Owens. What's the I mean, I'm not surprised they pulled that.
Where is? I mean, Nash County. Come on, y'all. I mean, y'all ain't gonna put no heat on dude for that. I guess I gotta watch my language now with all that, those new laws. Y'all not gonna apply the pressure like they said.
Where is Nash County? What? I need to get my people. Where is Nash?
Nash County is Wilson.
Wilson. Oh, going down east, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Okay, I know what's that now.
So we need to mobilize and organize, but they're moving this bill at record speed, supposedly. It could, like I said, it could have gone to the House tomorrow. Now, I've seen them do at least one time. They did something real slick with a bill years ago. I think everybody showed, okay, we got a comment. Da, 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 da. Everybody showed up. Now, maybe you're familiar. It was one bill they did one year. The Republicans got together at 8 o'clock and did something. And
I remember that.
Yep, they got together early.
Because there was a meeting at a black church here. I remember. Oh God, I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
They got together early, like 8. People weren't coming in at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. By the time they got there, it was already done.
Mm-hmm.
They can do the same thing with 187 and 188. Because see, the thing is, let's say with the Holocaust bill, it had to go through different committees because it had to actually be funded. This one does not require funding. So they can just fast track that.
Yeah. Do you think the governor will veto this bill?
The thing is, can he?
Okay. And the reason why I asked that was because I went to a county commissioner last night, a county commissioner meeting last night with Commissioner Dan Bessie and Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. And I asked their positions on it because, as you know, we're working on infusion, which our local school board said this is the route to go, which Hayed Out will never concede that that's just the route to go, because anything that there's no oversight on is not going to work, right? We've always been for the mandatory class alongside infusion. So we asked them their position because they fund the school system, right? So we said, hey, if this bill passes, then the school system doesn't really have to do anything. They can say we don't have to infuse, because when you read that bill, I mean, it outlines everything you really cannot say. Like, you can't teach little Rayshawn, you know, about Jim Crow. Like, it's all these things you can't do, so the school system can wash their hands of it, right? Commissioner Bessie, I must say, he was very aware of 187, even though he didn't recognize it by name. He recognized it as, I think it's called the Equality in Education Bill. So some people don't know, and which you know that really is misleading. So a lot of people don't know the number, but they know that. Commissioner McDaniel was not abreast of it, and so I was just curious to kind of see where they were. But he did say that he believed that the governor would veto it, and he also mentioned some of the things that you just mentioned about how folks might just be absent when it's time to vote, like some of the different like tricks and tactics that could be pulled to get this thing through. So that's why I posed the question to you.
He vetoed it in 2021. Different House, different Senate.
Right.
This year, I think the Senate is Republican led, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Right?
Yes, it is.
They only have to flip one House member. That's why they're saying that this year the governor probably won't be, because let's rewind it. 2021, the bill passed. Let's be clear.
Right.
House and Senate passed.
I think it was 324 then. I think that was
324.
324, correct.
On the House, it passed. The governor had the power to veto it.
Right.
This year, he doesn't have as much power to veto it. Senate Republican, and all they have to do is flip one person in the House.
Okay.
And the governor can't veto it. That's why I think it was Blackwell, one of them, had so much confidence in the bill, because in their mind, they got this.
We got it, yeah. So how are we going to get our people to raise up? Because what's happening in Florida, that's getting ready to happen. It's starting now. If we don't raise up right now, I feel like we out here the lone voices in the wilderness, and that can't hold. That cannot hold. We can't wait till it's law and then we trying to strike down the law. Let's stop it before it gets there.
And we're not talking about getting, I mean, it might be a minute before it gets actually on the Senate floor, but that's even speculation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long that's going to take, but it by this time tomorrow or at least Thursday, it could be a done deal in the House.
True.
So if okay, let's rewind that, because if it passes the House and all they have to do is flip
Mm-hmm.
one person in the House, when it goes to the Senate, it's already a done deal.
It's done. Yeah.
That just came to me. If they're saying they only have to flip one person in the House, if it, oh, that's for the veto.
Mm.
But if it passes the House, they say they already got the Senate and it can't be vetoed. No, they got to flip one person on the veto.
What we
So
gonna do? That's the question. What we gonna do?
we ain't got long to do it.
No.
And it's almost like, what aspect do you want to, because it's just the few, the faithful few.
Mm-hmm.
187, 188,
Yeah.
riot bill, and not to mention what's going on in Durham and Winston-Salem on the street. 12-year-old little girl got shot running from a bullet yesterday. Haven't even had time to look at that.
Mm.
At some point, sister, the people have to stand up.
Absolutely. That's it. That's what the power is with the people.
You know, the people have to take responsibility. All the books that I've handed out, it's time to put that into operation.
And let me say this, Minister Scott, because I see this a lot in not only in my work as an educator, but in the private tutoring that I do. There is somewhat of an assumption that there is a lot of good that happens in schools, and I can tell you that that is not the case, particularly for Black children. I think we are easily duped because we see people who are nice, or we see nice, some of the salient features, the building, the boards, the da da da. Curriculum is everything. Curriculum is everything. And I'm no curricular expert, so I don't want to paint that, but I do know that's the one thing that gets folks up in arms, because that is the basis, that is a foundation for what you're putting in our children's minds, right? And people are afraid of that kind of radical teaching. They're kind of afraid of you giving them um knowledge, just that knowledge of self. And so I think we got to stop assuming that, oh, well, they're in school, this is happening, it's gonna happen. No, it's not. It's not gonna happen without us pushing in and asking the hard questions. What is my child being taught? And who is teaching them, and are they qualified at asking those sound questions? You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times, like for instance, I teach English. There's already a package program that we get. It's not the most diverse piece of materials. Now I don't know what they do in the history program. And I don't think they have textbooks anymore, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. They just might have an array of different resources.
Yeah,
But
huh? They mentioned what you just said about, instead of textbooks, they got resources. Yeah, they mentioned.
Yeah, and so not everybody is making instructional decisions in favor of our children. And so I just don't want our people to assume that a lot of good is happening. Like for instance, I teach Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. And my children initially they hate it and then they love it. But I tell them this is a classic. You must read this. I will teach it every semester. You do not have a choice. If you are in my Honors English 2 class, you will learn this book. I'm convinced if you can master this, you can understand on a deeper level what has happened to African people all throughout the world, throughout the diaspora, right? But that was an instructional decision that I made. I could teach a sample, but I teach the whole book. Like they must read the whole book, right? I told them, you want to pass my class, you're going to read this book. That's just the way it works. And so I think we assume that folks are doing what they're not doing. And so often, before I even teach that book, let me give you an example. I'll start with this question. I say, name one African writer you read. I have not had one student since I've been teaching English language arts tell me of one African writer they've read. Not one. By the time they leave me, they can say Adichie, they can say Achebe, they can say whom, and then the African American writers that they've been exposed to. So we have got to stop assuming that good things are happening for our children. It's not. I was shocked when I went into education and I saw what was happening. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Oh my God!" But then once I looked back over how I was educated, I said, "Okay, this is a plan by design. It does make sense."
Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that this professor, those books you named, this professor donated like 4 books, like Things Fall Apart, and what's the other book he wrote? He wrote. I got several books by him. The beautiful ones not yet born. Yeah, so I'm sitting right on top of a lot of books like that. So, my bottom line is, whatever y'all do in the school system, I got 300-400 books at a time saying I'll teach it in the hood.
I love it.
Yeah, but here's the thing, as they say, here's the caveat. We have to affirm our children have the right.
There you go.
To express their culture in class, and they don't have to drop it at the front door when they enter the school.
No, and that's where they spend that's where when a lot of my people have said to me, like, well, why can't we do it in our churches, mosques, temples, community centers? Here's the thing, we can. We should. We must. I'm not opposed to that. But your taxpayer dollars are funding that school. And that's where they spend the bulk of their time. So if they're there, 7, 8, however many hours a day, that's what they need to receive that, because what you're asking them to do is in addition to that, right? You're asking them on a Saturday or on an evening, hey, come to the rec center, come to so-and-so's church and learn this stuff, when really that's where between those hours of 8 to 3, or in my case 9 to 4:20, that's where they should be able to get all of that. Like, literally, there's no subject that you can bring up in which you can't mention Black folks, period.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is.
And here's the other thing. Even if we are teaching, like I'm teaching on the street, giving out books on the street to young people, all ages, but let's say specifically high school, middle school kids. What happens when what we teach them doesn't gel with what they learn in school, and there's no recourse to challenge it? Because then you get into House Bill 188.
Absolutely. Yeah, because what you're going to have, if you're going to have an upset teacher, because it's happened to me before, I didn't get upset, but sometimes you get a real brilliant scholar. I've had them who can take you to task about something, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who you are, you're not really settled, you'll take that thing personal, right? Where I teach, listen, I got some of the baddest Black scholars, as Run DMC say, not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. Right. I got some, they listen, they ain't no joke. And they will take me to task. You say what now? They're on that laptop. Okay, say that again. Run that back. Oh no, it's actually not this. And I have to say, you know what, brother? You know what, sister? You've taught me something. You've taught the teacher, because I'm not the purveyor of all knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. As it relates to 188, when they get in there, particularly for our Black males who are perceived as aggressive, even when they often aren't aggressive, and they're saying, "Hey, hold up, I don't agree with that." We just got into an interesting debate about Ta-Nehisi Coates and his views on the uses of the N-word today. It was profound. Oh my God. And they're saying to the teachers, I disagree with that, and here's why. But they're saying it in a way that that some can't handle. Next thing you know, they're kicked out of school, right? Because I'm convinced our children are spirited, and they will, the way that they express, they're not going to express like some white children might, and everybody can't handle it. It took me a long time to learn how to handle it. When I first started, it was woo. I was like, what is this? So until you kind of grow and you begin to understand, and then I had to watch master Black teachers really deal with our children to really learn how to navigate all that, because it wasn't easy. Because again, I'm educated in the Eurocentric system, right, which says you sit down, you raise your hand, you wait your turn, you don't speak to the teacher that way. You know what I mean? And then when I started teaching, because they gave me all the Black boys, my God, because I was teaching special education at the time. And so, they love to funnel black children in special education, even though I'm convinced there's nothing wrong with our children. I am convinced. There are some who do have a disability, but there are many who do not. Go ahead.
Let me throw this caveat in, not to cut you off. I just want to add this crucial point. One of the criticism of House Bill 188, it will affect black kids and disabled kids. Carry on.
And so when I was doing that work, I kept saying, why is this class filled with nothing but black children, especially black boys? And they always found this BED diagnosis, behavior emotional disability, or emotional disability, or SCD, like that. So we kind of had all of these things. So I can only imagine that when a teacher gets one of a child with that diagnosis in a classroom, and they are really seeking to understand and then to be understood, and they put forth the point, as they're trying to figure it all out developmentally, they're unclear. That challenge can be perceived as aggression. What's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen?
And that was one of the things they dipped and dabbed around. Somebody posed a question, I think it was Representative Gill, about what is the punishment or what mechanism of correction do you have in place? It was like, well, we thought about it. And this was talking about the teachers. We haven't even gotten to the students yet. Mm-hmm. But they're not even clear on, okay, suppose I violate this law and teach it anyway. What's going to happen? They didn't have a clear answer.
Well, there's already that, for lack of better words, that hotline that Mark Robinson came up with. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where teachers can be reported for teaching certain things that they don't like. So they already have that. I think they know the answer. I've been on the investigation before, so they know how this works. You get investigated, it's a long drawn out process, and then they give you the answer. Which, if you're on the losing end, it's termination.
And maybe they're not pressed with the punishment because they know 99.9% of the time the threat is sufficient.
Right, absolutely.
You got mouths to feed, you got a car payment, you got a car note, you trying to get. Do they still get tenure after 3 years? I haven't taught in a while.
I think they got rid of tenure.
Yeah. So you got children put in school, you already stressed out. You got to make sure your children pass EOGs. So you already got that going on. How many people need to add that extra burden when they can just throw up their hands and say, okay, you win? They know this.
They got this thing
was a miseducation Negro.
They got this thing so sold up. I can't tell you how many times I have been in education and folks will be upset. I'm revved up. They mad. They raging mad. Then when you say, well, what we gonna do something about it? Now I have literally heard, girl, I gotta pay my mortgage. Girl, you don't have children, but I have children. I got a car note. And I was shocked now. I'm talking about shocked. I'm ready to go to the front line. I'm standing in the foyer looking at them like, we went through all this for nothing? And they turned back. I personally had it happen. Or the other tactic, let me tell you the other one. Get together with a group of people. Y'all already, you're upset about something. This is not right. Got this righteous indignation. I've seen this well, whoever the leader is, they'll get that one black person to the side. So do all of you feel this way? Or is it just Miranda? You know what'll happen? It's just Miranda. Yeah, I've personally had that happen.
Oh, yeah, that's a Durham tactic.
Yes, sir.
Durham politicians, this has happened to me many times. They will say, well, it's just you.
That's how they dismiss you. Yeah.
Then if you're not strong-minded, you can get gaslighted. You're like, maybe it is just me.
Right, because you look around, you can't see nobody else. You like, did I dream this up? Oh, yeah, that pull that. Yeah. School, people used to say I was bitter. Now I just learned a lot about how this thing really works. And then eventually they'll say something like, well, I wouldn't even worry about it. Girl, they just don't want to learn. They just go in that classroom and teach. That's the way it works in education.
Or the old adage, get your paycheck and sit your 20 years out.
Yes, that happens a whole lot. And so I've been in meetings where I told them, I told a leader one time, and I said, listen, I didn't create this system. Y'all created this system. Eventually, y'all gonna get me. I just hope it's not by black hands. So what we gonna do? Straight up. That was just what last year. I said, because I can't do this work with fear. It's not like I've never been poor before. Grew up on food stamps. So what's new now? So they understand this, but most people are not. The capitalism is a beast. Most people, things, materialism. Most people not gonna go that far. And most of us just want to whine. So it's like, what are we willing to do? A lot of time, and I see a lot of fear, both inside education and outside education. Inside education is because of, like you said, the paycheck. It's even they're worried about what are you teaching, what are you doing, what are you saying, all of this, that kind of thing. And then the people outside, I think sometimes our people have been so conditioned to be afraid to raise up. Because we were fighting for the class years ago. Folks said, they ain't gonna give y'all that class. You done asked once, they told you no. Oh well. So this mindset of just accept it. And I'm like, the ancestors didn't do that. So why are we gonna just sit down and take this? We keep fighting until we win. And so I've seen a lot of that as well. But I told Hate Out, I think at the state level, we're not paying attention. And I think that is the playbook that Republicans always use. They're not as concerned about who's in office. They're looking at the courts and they're looking at these laws. That's where we got to pay attention. Because I don't think I was on it until I saw some stuff you posted. And that's what got me to paying attention. And then I started paying attention to Florida. I said, what's going on? So I started, reading articles here and there. And I said, oh my God, they go sneak this thing in. Before we know it, it's going to be an article. And then next thing you know, we're going to be upset. We're going to rally and we want to protest, but it's really going to be too late.
But I think that there has not been a lot of outcry because unlike Florida, House Bill 187 is basically dealing with descendants of enslaved Africans. Because in Florida, DeSantis said, well, we're not talking about black people. We're talking about gender. We're not talking about history. We're talking about gender. That bill in North Carolina, no, y'all talking about black folks. If you read it, you're talking about black folks.
I think doesn't it have a little bit of something in there with sex and all of that kind of laced in there? Yeah.
But as far as the whole thing about systemic racism and how one group is superior, you're talking about black and white dynamic. They're talking about slavery.
Yeah.
You're talking about Jim Crow. The way it's worded, especially Section C, is it Article 5 and 6 or something like that? That's basically what you're talking about. So, all right, sister, my battery I got to get a new battery, a new computer. Right. So, in closing, what's our action agenda?
So, in closing, Hate Out right now, we're working in coalition with some folks. So, we're going to be meeting on Thursday. We are preparing for a rally. We're trying to mobilize as quick as possible to get the people out. We are looking to the same way we fought to bring the statue down. We're looking to go back to where that statue was because this is white supremacy, and we're committed to fighting white supremacy. So we plan to be right back out there because for us, it was never about just a statue, right? It was always about toppling white supremacy wherever we find it. And as an educator, I feel like it's incumbent upon me to certainly do that. So we're going to be moving on that end. We're also going to be meeting with the local school board. We got a couple of district level meetings coming up as well because we have some folks trying to ignore us. We won't be ignored as voters, as constituents to help put these people in office. And so we're going to be meeting with them. But probably by this weekend. We want people to look out for flyers for information on how they can support. We're real thankful to Winston Forsyth County. I think it's called Communities and Public Schools, Red, Wine, and Blue for working with us on this next move that we're trying to make. And anyone else who is righteous and definitely about teaching history that is accurate, even though it's complex. We're asking that they send us a DM and follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram.
So, as they say, a good general never discusses his plans in front of the enemy. But are you all planning to rally pretty soon?
As soon as we can do it right. We don't ever want to go out there and do anything that's not done right. Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, because like I said, the House process is probably going to move kind of quick, but when it goes before the House and the Senate, wait a minute, okay, how's that work? It goes through the House, and then the House is done with it because it goes to the Senate.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends how long it dangles with the Senate.
We got a target date, but as you just said, I don't want to put that out there.
I won't put it out there.
Yeah, we got it, but I can't put that out there.
I'm just saying that since I believe I'm shadow banned by the media locally at this point, I might slide to Winston. You can't ban me everywhere.
No, they can't. And
you can't ban me everywhere. A famous person retweeted something this morning, and it went to 21,000 people across the country.
Okay.
She wrote a book called 1619. But anyway, yeah, she she hit the retweet, and every time she retweets, it goes to like 21,000 people. So,
and I teach her, by the way.
Okay.
I teach her. Somebody came by my classroom and got scared. They was like, you can't do that in Florida. I said, I'm doing this in here. That's what we doing.
Okay. And Professor Mark Anthony Neal, he usually retweets it, and he has a large following. Dr. Greg Carr, he retweets it sometimes. He has a large following, so maybe the help we need might not even come out of North Carolina.
We like Dr. Carr. We couldn't get him before with the last move we were making, but we've spoken to Dr. Carr before.
Yeah, I mean he'll retweet every now and then something I put out, but maybe it's going to be outside of North Carolina.
Maybe
it's going to have to take national attention.
And we have some folks reaching out to some other people as well that are saying that they're watching North Carolina to see what happens, and so we're gonna see what happens on that end as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm proud of what Hate Out of Winston.
Yeah.
I got Wilson on my mind. Hate Out of Winston is doing so. Let me know, and I might jump in the ride. It's just an hour and 15 minutes.
Around the corner. That's right. All right, my brother. I appreciate you for having me on here.
I appreciate you, and keep fighting. We'll be in contact.
All right. Bye-bye.
And as always, leave the Black Messiah motto: stop waiting for a savior and be one. Shalom.